Shana Tova, Good Yantiv. Moshe Cohen goes to his doctor, complaining of ongoing aches and pains. After a thorough examination, the doctor gives him a clean bill of health. Moshe, you're in excellent shape for a 75-year-old. But I'm not a magician, the doctor says. I can't make you any younger. Who asked you to make me younger? Said Moshe. Just make sure I keep getting older. Over the last century, a new phenomenon has arisen in the human condition. Older adults who are healthy and who possess significant amounts of free time on their hands. We're living longer, we're living healthier, and thank God for the incredible success of the Jewish community in America, most of us can reasonably expect to retire. The freedom of retirement and the resources to enjoy it must be appreciated, because there are so many lacking access to such opportunity. For the first time in the history of humanity, though, many of us are finding ourselves with the ability to choose how we spend our days. Yet as wonderful as that is, there is little historical wisdom on which to rely to create a map for meaningful aging. The book of Psalms teaches us to number our days so that we can acquire a heart of wisdom. When we're younger, we often think that we possess all the time in the world, so there's no reason to count. At some point, though, we start to take stock of our days. For some, it requires a major life-changing event to bring our attention to the passing of time and the fact that our time is not unlimited. Maybe the children move out, retirement, illness, loss of a loved one. For others, it's the increasing gray or the receding hairline that causes us to note the changing of the seasons and the implications therein. I am blessed with both the gray and the receding hairline. As we enter then the second part of our lives, how do we live with meaning and with purpose? I find myself often in conversation with adults who are asking the question, now what? I've come to learn that in order to infuse the second part of our lives with meaning and with purpose, we should focus our energy on three endeavors. Horah, as in the dance. Morah, as in the Hebrew word for teacher. And Torah, as in Torah. Horah, Morah, and Torah. Now, these same three pillars are equally important goals for younger people, though the challenges of building families and careers can sometimes make it difficult to focus on the blessings of Horah, Morah, and Torah. For all of us here, no matter our age, the more we can strive for Horah, Morah, and Torah, the more meaning we can bring to our lives. We start with Horah. We're very familiar with the Horah, a folk dance made famous by early Zionist pioneers in which participants interlock arms or hands and dance together in circles. The Horah is a symbol of joyful celebration of life with family, friends, and community. At the core of a good life is the love and joy that comes from being in relationships with other people. As part of that, then, we must take time to engage in activities that bring us connection. Lunch with friends, afternoons of golf or tennis, talking on the phone, dinner with adult children or grandchildren, and even poker nights all fall into this category. The second part of our lives should be fun, and we should spend time with the people who make us happy. Of course, the beauty of Horah is a symbol, and not just as a dance. It means that you should enjoy life and not have to worry about throwing your back out trying to lift the father of the bride or the father of the groom on a chair. Moreover, just as the Horah takes place during the moments that matter most, like weddings or bar and bat mitzvah celebrations, so too do we come to learn in the second part of our lives that there are things we should never, ever take for granted. We should never take for granted the sounds of our loved ones' voices or the warmth of their hugs. As we grow older, we come to understand that many people would give anything for the chance to hear their mother's voice one more time, or to groan at a dad joke yet again. Likewise, too many bereaved moms and dads would move the planets just to hear their deceased child's laughter one more time. Our hearts break especially for parents who must confront the tragedy of mourning their children's deaths. And I plan to tell you more on Kol Nidre, about my friend Sam Gowell, who died this past week at the age of 21. Just as children mourn parents and parents mourn children, too many spouses know the pain of newly waking up alone. And probably all of us know what it's like when we pick up the phone to call someone, only they're not there, and that we forget that the person can't pick up the call. Never should we take for granted the voices of our loved ones or the warmth of their hugs. Then, in addition to voices and hugs, those who've entered the second part of our lives, we know never to take for granted the ability to get up and go, to stand with ease, to walk with ease, to leave the house with ease, and even to actually dance the Horah. Speaking of getting up and going, Judaism even gives us a bathroom blessing, to be grateful for the body's proper functioning. How many of our conversations in the second part of our lives are spent discussing which body parts hurt or which organs aren't working quite right? Illness and infirmity are part of aging. So moving our bodies, getting out of our homes to find connections, and being grateful for both are at the heart of Horah. Last but certainly not least, community is essential to adults in the second part of their lives, and community is necessary for Horah. The story is told of an older woman named Ruth, dressed in her finest Shabbat outfit, who was running to the synagogue as fast as she could to not be late for her aliyah. As she ran, she prayed, "Oh God, please don't let me be late. Oh God, please don't let me be late." While she was running and praying, she tripped on a curb and stumbled forward, catching herself just before she hit the cement. Ruth got up, brushed herself off, and started running again. As she ran, she once again began to pray, "Oh God, please don't let me be late, but please don't shove me either." Not only is community essential to adults in the second part of our lives, it can in fact elongate our lives. One recent study found that regular service attendance was linked to longer life. So much so that worshipers were 55% less likely to die during the 18-year follow-up period than people who didn't frequent the synagogue, church, or mosque. I cannot think of a better marketing campaign for Zedek than come to shul regularly and live longer. On that note, while I'm delighted with the investment in our internet broadcast of services, the true blessing of Horah can best be achieved when you are able to attend in person. And how amazing this turnout is after the years of pandemic. The Horah represents the blessing of movement, the importance of human relationships, and the obligation to join in community and friendship, essential elements for meaningful aging. After Horah comes Morah. Many of us are familiar with the word from our days in religious school or day school. Morah is the Hebrew word for teacher. Morah, if I pronounce it correctly, right, Aya? But I'm from Michigan, we can say Morah. While we know that when we're younger there is value in continuing academic and professional education, an essential element of the second part of our lives is seeking to continue learning and also to share our acquired wisdom with others. Among many ongoing adult education opportunities, your Zedek family has innovated 2 outstanding new initiatives in this area, with the third on the way. Thanks to the generosity of Joy and Alan Nachman, we're now gathering monthly for Coffee House, where we share in expert-led, enriching discussions, all while enjoying great food and even better friendships. In addition to Coffee House, we pioneered in the last year timely Torah. Each Shabbat morning before services, we study the weekly Torah portion in a relaxed, friendly environment. I'm also excited to share with you that soon we will inaugurate a new once-a-month Shabbat morning experience that will begin at 9:30 a.m. called In Search of Coffee and Wisdom, through which we'll explore how ancient Jewish texts offer us timeless answers to life's great questions and the community in which to pursue those answers. We all should be in search of coffee and wisdom. Well, at least wisdom. Adults in the second part of our lives must not only engage in deep learning, but we must share our accumulated wisdom with others. Perhaps you recall that 2 years ago, at the height of the pandemic, we celebrated our son Caleb becoming bar mitzvah. Here in the very large sanctuary of Congregation Shaarey Zedek, there were 10 of us and a laptop sitting just in front of the bima to zoom the service out to the world. 10 of us for our first son's bar mitzvah. God willing, in less than a year, our second son, Eyal, will become bar mitzvah too. You're all invited, and Rebecca and I are buying lunch. But 2 years ago, when we realized that only immediate family could be here in person, I had an idea. I asked you, our synagogue family, to write an old-fashioned letter to Caleb, to share with him the most important piece of wisdom that you've learned. I collected those letters, I digitized them, and I created a book from which Caleb could learn for the rest of his life. What did you teach him? Among the many pieces of advice were, the best gift your parents will ever give you is your sibling, so be a loving brother. Be flexible. Lead a life of integrity. Treasure your heritage as a great-grandchild of Holocaust survivors. Bad days will come, but things will get better. Learn to dribble the basketball with both your left and right hands, but not at the same time. Be grateful. Cherish your friends. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. There's always a plan B. Do what you love and work hard at it. Giving is more satisfying than receiving. Have fun. And finally, perhaps the best piece of pandemic wisdom: don't take your bar mitzvah money and buy stock in cruise lines. In the second part of our lives, we must continue to immerse ourselves in learning and in teaching. And this might mean taking the time to put on paper your values and your hard-learned lessons about the meaning of life. Write it down. Future generations will be grateful. What is the most important thing you've learned about life? And with whom can you share it? And that brings us to the third aspect of living a meaningful and purposeful second part of our lives: Torah. Specifically focusing on the Torah of compassion, kindness, and forgiveness. After all, in addition to the wisdom, every letter you sent to Caleb, to us, contained words of comfort and compassion. The most important gift you gave to my son, far beyond the wisdom, was letting him know that he was not alone, that we are not alone. Your love brought healing. The Talmud tells the story of Rabbi Yochanan the healer. One day, Rabbi Yochanan the healer became sick himself. So Rabbi Hanina went to visit Rabbi Yochanan. With the touch of his hand and the warmth of his spirit, Rabbi Hanina brought Yochanan back to health. Perplexed, the rabbis of the Talmud asked the question, if Rabbi Yochanan was such a healer, why could he not heal himself? From this, the sages derive the maxim, a prisoner cannot free himself from prison. Loneliness and suffering, even illness and infirmity, are lessened by the presence of engaged and caring friends and family. Living with meaning and with purpose demands that we bring healing to others. And in that way, we're continually bringing healing to ourselves. The Barcelona Olympics of 1992 provided one of track and field's most incredible moments. Britain's Derek Redmond had dreamed all his life of winning a gold medal in the 400-meter race. And his dream was in sight as the gun sounded in the Olympic semifinals. He was running the race of his life and could see the finish line as he rounded the turn into the backstretch. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain go up the back of his leg. He fell face first onto the track with a torn right hamstring. As the medical attendants were approaching, Redmond fought to get to his feet. It was an animal instinct, he would say later. He set out to hopping in a crazed attempt to finish the race. When he reached the stretch, a large man in a t-shirt came out of the stands, hurled aside a security guard, and ran to Redmond, embracing him. It was Jim Redmond, Derek's father. "You don't have to do this," he told his weeping son. "Yes, I do," said Derek. "Yes, I do." "Well then," said Jim, "we're going to finish this together." And they did. Fighting off security men and with the son's head sometimes buried in his father's shoulder, they stayed in Derek's lane all the way to the end. The crowd gasped, then rose and cheered and wept. Derek didn't walk away with the gold medal, but he walked away with an incredible memory of a father who, when he saw his son in pain, left his seat in the stands to help him finish the race. Certainly from parents to children and children to parents, but also from friend to friend, we bring healing by reaching out to those in need of healing. It is our holy task and our blessing to bring healing to others. Lastly, on the high holidays, we pray that God is slow to anger and quick to forgive. Whenever we remove the Torah scroll on our festivals, we proclaim Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, God gracious and compassionate, patient, abounding in kindness, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin. If we ask forgiveness of God, then we too should be slow to anger and quick to forgive. We too should be abounding in kindness and compassion. I'm seeing far too many siblings who've fallen out with each other, and way too many parents and children who will not speak to one another. If we want God to forgive our missteps, the ones we acknowledge today and over the next 10 days, and even the ones we don't acknowledge, then surely we must forgive our family for their missteps, even if they neglect to apologize. The third aspect of living a meaningful and purposeful second part of our lives, and perhaps the most important, is to live the Torah of compassion, kindness, and forgiveness. Meaning and purpose are best achieved by offering a healing presence to those who are in need. Through Horah, Morah, and Torah, we today are the pioneers who will pave the road toward making the second part of our lives filled with meaning and with purpose. The Horah represents the blessings of movement, the importance of human relationships, and the obligation to join in community. Morah represents continued learning and teaching from generation to generation. Lastly, in this case, Torah represents compassion, kindness, and forgiveness. Our most important role is to bring healing to others, and in doing so, we bring healing to ourselves as well. Horah, Morah, and Torah. And yes, you're welcome to say it with me. Horah, Morah, and Torah. As we enter 5783, I pray that we should all be wise enough, no matter our age, to strive for Horah, Morah, and Torah. I pray that we should be blessed with the health and resources necessary to live the second part of our lives with meaning and with purpose. I pray, too, that for you and for us all, it should be a Shana Tova Umituka, a good and a sweet new year. Torah, Horah, and Morah, or Horah, Morah, and Torah. And let us say together, Amen.